Hey guys, my name is Taylor and welcome to the Carmen Corset tutorial. This will follow along with the written instructions, but if you still have any more questions, feel free to message me, and without any further ado, let's get started. So here you can see I have all my pattern pieces. You cut 2 of each from your main fabric and your lining. And now with just my main fabric, I am ironing on interfacing. When you're done, it should look like this. Before we start sewing, to make sure everything's even, I start from the outside in, stopping at the center. Once you're ready to start sewing, go right sides together, pin your pieces, and sew along the edge. Repeat those exact steps for each piece, stopping in the center, and it should end up looking like this. Once you're ready, do the exact same thing with right sides facing each other, where you're going to pin and sew together. The reason I like to go outside and leave the inside out first is just to make sure everything's even, and this is what your corset should look like. We are going to do those exact same steps with the lining. Once you've repeated everything, you should have your main corset and then your lining. Mine is on top right here. And we're gonna press open those seams, both for the main and the lining corset. I like to use a tailor's ham for the curves. If you don't have a tailoring ham, you can also use a bundled up t-shirt or sweater, whatever works. Now with just our main fabric, we are going to work on creating the channels. You're going to cut a 1.5 inch strip from the rest of your fabric, and you're going to measure this so that it goes in the center and then 2 side seams of your corset. You want to cut your strips just a little bit shorter than what your actual corset is, and you're going to do that again for the center and 2 front side pieces. Once I have my pieces cut to the correct length, I am going to pin them down, and then once I've pinned them down, I actually go back over and I just mark with a piece of chalk what the center is. This just makes sure that my strip is even. This just helps my sewing stay correct and that the center part is in the center, because we are not sewing down the center, we are sewing on both sides of the channel. This basically creates a space for our boning to get entered into, and I'll show you what that looks like on the outside and the inside once this is all pinned. Now that that's sewn down, you can see my 2 channeled sewing lines that go on either side of the original seam, and here is my channels. This is what the boning will be entered into. Before we enter in the boning, we're going to grab that lining again. We're going to take the lining and we're going to place it on top of our corset with the right sides facing. Once we've got that down, I'm going to pin. I like to start pinning at the seams, so you'll see me do all of those top notches and the side seams, and then I go in and fill with the rest of my pins. This just makes sure that all the seams are lining up and everything's even before I start sewing. And here's the corset all sewn down on the opposite side. Before I flip it inside out, I'm going to cut a bunch of slits on the curves. This just helps it sit really flat. Once I've done that, we are going to flip inside out. For those top pieces, you can use anything blunt to make it sharp. Just make sure it's not going to puncture the fabric. I think I used the back of a marker for this. Press those seams super flat. We're going to do all of the curves, everything, and then we are going to top stitch everything once it has been pressed. Now that we have a top stitched corset, that's so close to being done, guys, we're going to enter in our boning channels. I already pre-measured these, and you can see I've also taped off my edges. This is to make sure that it doesn't puncture the corset. We don't want that to happen and our boning sticking out. We're going to insert in our boning to their correct channels. Make sure that they're about a 1/2 inch off from the bottom, so that way we can still finish off that bottom piece. Now from here, just to make life a little bit easier, I'm going to base stitch the top to the lining. After this, you can choose if you would like to just hem it. That is up to you. I'm going to finish off with a bias tape finish. Choose whichever you prefer. You can also either buy bias tape or make your own from your fabric. I have made my own, and here I am pressing it into place before I pin it, and then I'm going to top stitch this down, making sure I've got no raw edges showing. And now you can see my top is almost done. All we need to do is add the zipper. Again, I'm going to take the sides and I'm going to base stitch the main fabric to the lining on both ends. Once I've got this base stitch, I'm going to take my zipper. Remember, this is a separating zipper. I like to put both on either sides because I'm dyslexic, and I just want to double check and make sure I have everything correct. So this is the right sides facing. Now that I've placed my zipper, I'm going to flip it so that it is facing the wrong way. And also, I have already trimmed my zipper. If you have not, you can do that later so that you can move your zipper head off. Once I've got that facing the wrong way, I'm going to pin it and sew that in place. It should look like this. Now that that's sewn in place, you are going to flip it down so now your zipper is facing the right way. Pin in place and sew. I'll show you what that final looks like. And here is our final zipper facing the correct way, looking nice and straight. I also close off the top with just a zigzag stitch. You can close off however you like, but this is just to make sure that the top of the zipper does not come off because I did trim mine. Next, I'm just going to repeat that steps for my other side of my zipper. Again, we're going to have it facing the right way, flip it so it is facing the opposite way, sew it down, and then fold over. Now that both zippers are done, I'm just going to go back, make sure everything looks good, cut any threads. This time you want to make sure everything's fitting correct. Is your zipper straight? Does everything look good? No loose threads. And then finally, here is our final Carmen corset. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it fits correctly. Please let me know if you have any questions and follow along for more pattern releases in the future.